Welcome to our latest deep dive. When we think about tying the knot, we generally picture a complete blending of absolutely everything. Our lives, our homes, and especially our wallets. It's just an ingrained cultural milestone, right? But over in Japan, the legal framework surrounding marriage and personal finance works entirely differently than much of the rest of the world. It's a fascinating contrast, and honestly, it challenges some of our most basic assumptions about what it actually means to enter into a partnership.
So, does marriage mean sharing absolutely everything? For a lot of us, the immediate, almost instinctive answer is, well, yeah. There is a deeply rooted global expectation that getting married automatically merges your financial lives into one giant shared pot. You get married, and boom, your individual ledgers become a joint bank statement. You buy a house, it implicitly belongs to both of you. You stash money in the bank, and it serves as a shared safety net for your future together. The cultural narrative tells us that two become one, romantically and economically. But is that actually the rule everywhere? Today, we're going to challenge that exact assumption. We are exploring a system that operates on a fundamentally different legal and philosophical wavelength.
Section 1. Mine versus ours. Let's look at the legal reality of asset ownership.
Let's dive into how this actually works in practice, because the mechanics here are truly eye-opening. In Japan, marriage doesn't automatically create that shared financial pot we just talked about. Specifically, we're talking about the primary engines of wealth: income, savings, and property. Imagine a hypothetical couple. Let's call them Kenji and Yuka. They get married, they start building a life together, and naturally, they begin accumulating wealth over the years. But under Japanese law, the simple act of saying "I do" does not automatically make Yuka a legal co-owner of Kenji's specific financial assets. If he is the primary earner, the salary he brings home every month, the cash he meticulously tucks away into a savings account, or the land he purchases, it doesn't instantly become half hers by default. The legal framework maintains a strict, unyielding separation of these specific items. It essentially keeps their individual ledgers distinctly separate, running on parallel tracks long after the wedding bells fade. Now, to be clear, this doesn't mean they don't share daily living expenses or support each other, but the underlying legal ownership of the wealth being generated remains stubbornly individual.
Section 2. The name on the asset. In Japan, financial ownership ultimately comes down to one simple, overriding rule: whose name is on the paperwork. Think about building a life with someone for 40 years. Even after decades together, raising kids, weathering life's inevitable storms, sharing a roof, a history, and countless memories, most people would naturally assume that your assets are fundamentally and legally intertwined by that point. But under this specific legal framework, the simple passage of time doesn't erode that legal boundary. If the deed of the family home or the primary retirement savings account is solely in his name, it remains his legally, period, regardless of the decades spent as a married couple. Think about the gravity of that for a second. The financial security you might rely on in your twilight years is entirely dictated by the name attached to that specific asset on day one, not the length or depth of your marital bond. It literally means that without proactive steps to jointly register assets, a lifetime of partnership doesn't automatically translate into a lifetime of shared legal ownership. Section 3. The fairness debate. Let's look at two completely different perspectives.
As you might guess, this legal structure creates a pretty massive fundamental clash over what actually constitutes a true partnership. On one side, some argue this system is deeply unfair, particularly when viewing it through the lens of traditional household structures. The core argument here is that wives help build the family in crucial, non-monetary ways. By managing the household, raising children, and creating a stable environment, they provide the invisible foundation that allows the husband to go out, focus entirely on his career, and earn that income in the first place. Without her labor at home, his labor in the office just wouldn't be possible. Therefore, the argument goes, she has indirectly earned a rightful share of those tangible assets. But on the flip side, proponents argue the system is completely fair, especially as society shifts more toward dual-income households. Their perspective is rooted in a strict interpretation of direct attribution. The person who actually works for the money, earns the paycheck, and puts their legal name on the asset should rightfully maintain ownership of it. It highlights this fascinating philosophical divide, right? Recognizing the foundational, often unpaid labor of running a household versus rewarding direct, tangible financial earnings in a modern economy.
When we zoom out and look at this from a global perspective, the contrast is incredibly stark. In many countries across North America and Europe, the default legal and cultural reality is that mine turns into ours. Marriage is legally viewed not just as an emotional union, but as the ultimate financial merger. The law actively reflects the idea of a single collective unit, prioritizing communal property, where assets acquired during the marriage are generally split equally. But in Japan, the foundational philosophy remains that what you build can stay yours. The system prioritizes maintaining a strict individual financial identity even within the bounds of a lifelong marriage. It fundamentally alters the financial dynamics of a relationship. Instead of a mandatory communal pot that acts as a default safety net, it requires intentional, active decisions to share ownership, like making absolutely sure to put both names on a property deed. It shifts the entire focus from automatic commingling to individual financial independence and responsibility, while still navigating life as a married couple.
So which system is actually fairer? We've explored the default global assumption of automatically merging assets, and we've unpacked Japan's distinct system of retained individual ownership based strictly on the name on the paperwork. I am going to leave you with this to ponder. Does true partnership mean automatically sharing every single dollar earned, or does it mean respecting individual financial boundaries even after decades together? Thanks for joining me for this analysis.